Video, thanks for being here tonight. I am in such awe of God's love. I can almost hardly breathe. I am amazed. I am grateful to the JP2 Renewal Center for wanting to promote LoveEd. Everybody gets to a certain point after decades of doing this by myself that you know that the work will be carried on. So I'm so glad that you guys are here to help promote it and to promote the John Paul II Renewal Center that'll help our whole culture, our whole country, our whole world know the truth about love. Actually, it was the Archdiocese of Cincinnati that said this is the only program they've ever seen that they've reviewed that presumes the innocence of children. Most of them come from a position of sin or negativity, and this one presumes innocent, and it teaches children for the first time the beauty and goodness of God's plan. So they asked if I would give a little history of my work. And I don't think you want to hear all the stories, but Ginny said you did, about the spiritual warfare I've been through over the decades. You don't even want to hear that, but I could tell you that another time. We don't have that much time tonight. But the history of my work, I was praying about that this morning, and I thought, you know what? It's when I grew up in a second oldest of 9 children, and my mom was always pregnant or nursing a baby. And my mother gave us the most beautiful education in human sexuality because she had the most innocent answers. So I started giving talks called Innocent But Not Ignorant, around the country and on my radio show. By the way, somebody just did ask, I am still on Catholic radio. I've been on for 25 years now, offering free, friendly advice from a Catholic perspective. Now syndicated by EWTN to about 500 cities and Sirius Satellite Radio. So I'm on tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, so we won't be too late tonight. So if you have any personal problems, you want a Catholic flavored answer between 8 and 10 every Saturday morning, call 8775-PEP-TALK. But back to my mom. So we would ask my sister, who was 13 months older than I am. We were Irish twins. And then, by the way, this was God's idea that I was even born. Like, my parents did not plan me. They thought you couldn't get pregnant while you were breastfeeding. I was 4 months old. God conceived me. He wanted me here. So my life was his from the beginning. He probably looked down like, oh, like who's down there open to life? Like, what am I going to need like years from now? So we'd ask her these questions. And I remember when Pat asked her, how does the baby get out? When your mom's so big, and she'd say, well, when the time is right, in about 9 months, God will miraculously open the womb, the uterine muscles will contract, and the baby will slide out. I thought childbirth was the absolutely most beautiful thing that ever was going to happen until I'm in childbirth classes. I'm pregnant with my first child 6 months, and next week we'll talk about the screaming and pain. I'm like, what screaming and pain? What? My mom didn't tell me about the screaming and pain. Another one of my favorite questions that my mom answered so innocently was, we were probably 6 or 7 years old, and this is in my LoveEd parent guide as well, this story, is when Pat asked her, my older sister was always asking questions, and I'd sit and listen to the answers. And she said, what's a honeymoon for? And my mom said, a honeymoon is now that you're a new family, you can go on vacation together. Because you're going to have to practice getting dressed and undressed in the same room because it might be uncomfortable at first. What a gorgeous answer. I'm on a date 10 years later, and this guy tries unbuttoning my blouse, and I'm thinking, like, what's not a honeymoon, I spent all week deciding what to wear tonight and 3 hours getting ready, and if you think you're going to mess any of this up, you are sadly mistaken. And and then that told us too that you don't get undressed when it's not your honeymoon. So what a beautiful, innocent answer. So as I raised my 5 kids, I would give them, again, those beautiful, innocent answers, and many of those are in the LoveEd parent guide now. So I became a teacher at a Catholic school. I got degrees. I have a master's degree in health education, teaching certificates in 4 specialty fields: health, science, physical education, and theology. I love God. I gave my life to him. When I was finishing my master's degree, I told him I'd consecrate that all to him. Don't make bargains with God, because he takes you up on it. So I taught at Quincy Notre Dame High School. I taught at Bishop McNamara High School, and my students, my high school students and their parents were so deeply moved about the Catholic Church teachings because I would make it really fun. I mean, they would read from Humanae Vitae itself, Father. And I could tell you all those lessons, but we don't have that much time. But anyway, it was fun. And they came out like excited about chastity, excited about pro-life, excited to fight abortion. And at one point, the Chicago Archdiocese invited us up from Kankakee to speak to some of one of their teacher days. And the teachers there were saying, like, how did you get your students to turn out like this? Like, can you come to our school? Can you come to our school? Can you talk to us? So I started the McNamara Ambassadors of Sexual Health, and we started traveling around the Joliet Diocese, Chicago Archdiocese. Some of you might be young enough to have been at some of those seminars. I know Pete Colarelli was brought to one time. And so I wrote it down. So people said, can you write this down? So God called me to be an author. It's nothing I ever like dreamed of or had on my list of things to do, nor was being a chastity educator. That was not even one of the careers available back in the 70s. It just was not even something. And so I wrote the Love and Life Christian Sexual Morality Guide for Teens. That's published by Ignatius Press. And this was for Catholic schools. It has a parent's guide, a student workbook, and a teacher manual to be taught in Catholic schools. And then I wrote a public school version, Sex Respect, that's different than that. It's I wrote it as my curriculum project for my health education master's at Governor State University. And so when I'd go back and forth with my professor, she would take things out. Oh, you can't say the word soul, you can't say this, you can't say that. So I knew by the time I was done with this curriculum project for my master's that it was fine for the public schools because she had critiqued it so well. So Sex Respect, the option of true sexual freedom, was written, tested, studied in probably 6 or 8 states, and then became worldwide. So during the 90s and the early 2000s, the Sex Respect had thrown me into this huge controversy, more of that spiritual warfare, nationwide controversy for teaching abstinence in the public schools. At the time, they were putting school-based clinics in. And so I was sued by the ACLU. I was on Oprah, as one of the two controversial. I was on Geraldo. I was on 60 Minutes, and they totally twisted everything out that I said that was good. I was interviewing with Ed Bradley, and he said, well, in your Sex Respect book, this public school book, you say that abortion is killing a baby. He goes, well, what if people don't believe it's a baby? And I'm like, well, Ed, if it's not a baby, why go in after it? Just leave it alone, and so he was like stunned, and his producer saying, ask her number 10 again, ask her number 10. He goes, I could ask her number 10 5 more times, and she's not going to change her answer. They were setting you up. They were setting you up to try to take out sound bites to make you look bad. And then I was put in Glamour magazine, like a woman who makes a difference. And the photographer came down to our office and she says, scowl, like make a scowl, don't smile. I'm like, well, I always smile. That would be like a natural thing. No, make a scowl. Because I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to make me look like against everything. So I ended up debating the president of Planned Parenthood on national television in Washington, D.C. It was not that good of an experience because how you put your hand out and you say, nice to meet you? It wasn't nice to meet her. It really wasn't. Like I could feel, how you can feel evil energy sometimes? So I put my hand, it was Faye Waddleton at the time. She puts out, oh, nice to meet you, Coleen. And I'm like, hi, Faye. I mean, there was an energy there that you could feel that was evil. And anyway, then I debated the SECUS, Sex Education Information Council of the United States. I debated ACLU representatives on radio because they were trying to tell me I was imposing my morals on the public. And I'm like, I'm a health educator. I have a master's degree in health education. And these are health principles. What is healthy about altering a girl's hormonal chemistry so she can be used by her boyfriend? What is healthy about killing a baby into someone's womb? What is healthy about all the broken hearts that are happening and people being desensitized to the real bonding elements of human sexuality? So all those experiences were amazing, because they would try to, pit you against the other. But then a lot of good things happened as well between all the spiritual war. I was invited to train catechists and social workers and teachers and parents in the Diocese of Hong Kong. I got to have a private lunch with Cardinal Zen, those of you that follow communism. He's a powerful, awesome man. I was invited to Mexico City, Manila in the Philippines, Canada, Rome, a couple times in Rome, and many dioceses throughout the US and Canada, because Love and Life was the first ever someone to come out and say, yes, chastity is right, good, beautiful, we can do it. Right after all the controversy of Humanae Vitae had just permeated the entire culture. And then an honor that I had in 1997, I was invited to be one of 4 U.S. representatives invited to the Vatican's Pontifical Council for the Family by Pope John Paul II. I cried when I received that invitation in the mail. And they wanted me to present my Love and Life program at an in-depth study in Rome on the new document they were releasing then, The Truth and Meaning of Human Sexuality. And so it was an honor to be there with the Pontifical Council for the Family and see Pope John Paul II. And they saw my program, Love and Life, as a model for the world. And so in 1999, I was asked then by my publisher, Father Fessio of Ignatius Press, to do a show on Catholic radio, offering advice from a Catholic perspective, because I said, we have to know somebody that we can trust with those basic core teachings of Catholicism. So I still do that show every morning called Mass Appeal on EWTN. And about 10 years after the Vatican document was released, finally the U.S. bishops came out with a document on chastity education that was good. Their one in 1990 wasn't that good, but the one in 2008. And at that time, Bishop Peter Sarton, anybody remember him from the Joliet Diocese? Love him, so sorry he got sick. He called me into his office and reminded me that I had spoken at his parish when he was a pastor in Memphis, Tennessee, when I was like doing all the rounds, giving youth rallies all over. He goes, I know you, you spoke at my parish. I'm like, whoa, Memphis, Tennessee, 1989. I had a nursing baby with me at the time. And so he asked me to find a program that actually matched the true church teachings, not one that says, oh, I'll teach morality in class and I'll send a note home to the parents or I'll get their permission, that actually empowered the parents, because that's what the church said we need to do. We have a whole generation of parents that didn't learn it right the first time around, so they need to learn it along with their kids and be empowered and confident to pass it on. So I looked all over the world in every English-speaking country, and I came back and I said, Bishop, I can't find anything. And he said, write one. And so I began to write a program that I put on PowerPoint with a voiceover. Mike Dillenberg here was the voiceover for the boys program. We would record it down in his studio in his basement because he's a professional voiceover person. And the Growing Up with Health and Virtue program that I presented at hundreds of places all over the country was the precursor then to LoveEd. And we realized I can't be everywhere, even though the PowerPoint had a voiceover, it needed facilitation. So then God showed me a way to duplicate my decades of experience in a modern format that could be used by parishes and homes everywhere. So we gathered a team of professionals led by Patrick McCormick, Brian Birch. I think Brian Birch even came up with the name LoveEd, didn't he? And John Severance, you guys brainstorming together. They were going to take this to the next level. So I brought them my notebooks, my PowerPoints, my all my notes, my DVDs. Like I brought them all my stuff. Like this is what my parent talks, my kid talks, and they made it beautiful. Made it beautiful and visually effective. And so the first the diocese that wanted to implement LoveEd was the Diocese of Hawaii. I served on the USCCB National Review Board from 2011 to 2015, and I got in one of the bishops on there was the Bishop of Hawaii. So I told him, listen, as soon as this book's off the press, I said, I'm coming. So he set it up for me to come, and it was going to be on the Feast of the Annunciation, and the books were not done yet. And I said, well, listen, Bishop, you have me there, and if I have to stand at Staples or in the mimeograph machine for 3 hours and run them all off, I'll do it. That's what I ended up doing. I was in FedEx. My feet were killing me on the concrete there, running off the copies because the videos were done, but the books were not done yet. So they were waiting, and I went out there. Who's going to turn down a free trip to Hawaii to stay at the Diocesan Center on Oahu? And then I trained facilitators in the Omaha Diocese, the West Palm Beach Diocese, and 1 week after I came from West Palm Beach, the COVID quarantine shut down the world. Parishes closed, programs ended, and we came to a dead stop. And during that time, St. Benedict Press bought 10 books, then dropped their parish programs because parishes weren't even open. That kind of left me with no promotions for LoveEd. So I found ways, other jobs to do during that time. I got certified as a life coach and work for the parish now, as you know. And by a miracle of God, somehow he moved Jack Riegert and the JP2 Renewal Center to resurrect this important work. So I am extremely grateful and thankful for that. And so I want to tell you a little about the program itself. The goal is to provide church and the families a beautiful and positive Catholic-centered approach to human sexuality within the context of the meaning of family life, friendship, love, married love, and each program is age-appropriate and gender-specific. In all my years of working, I know that 5th grade boys do not want to hear the same things that 5th grade girls need to hear. And the 8th grade boys and the 8th grade girls are in separate planets, and the parents need a whole bunch of stuff to know in case the kids ask the questions. So it's 5 different programs, one just for parents. There's 6 videos in the parent program and a whole parent guide for them. Kids age 2 to 16, all sorts of teachable moment questions, stories. What if your kids ask about masturbation and they're 2? What about when they're 7? What about when they're 14? 3 different answers, because it's different for each of those age groups. That's all in the LoveEd parent guide. And then gender specific, age appropriate. So the information that needs to go to a child in those ages of innocence under puberty, like 2 to 9, that needs to come through the parent, not through the school, because that's inappropriate. It makes them uncomfortable. It harms their perception of what sexuality should be. It takes the privacy out of it. So we train the parents in those ages. And then when at the puberty talk that every public school has a horrible one to do, they even make fun of puberty and menstruation. So it's a beautiful expression of how God planned for your body to change. So these little girls are not scared. I had a girl over in Bonelybrook, actually. She put in the question box one time when we were doing the growing up program. It was right after Miley Cyrus got on that big wrecking ball with no clothes on, and they still had their Hannah Montana karaoke machine in the bedroom, and like, do I have to go through puberty? Can I just stay a girl? Like, they were scared. What they're seeing in the culture kind of scares them. So we bring them to this. This is beautiful. This is God's plan. It's good. The other stuff is junk. You don't have to listen to that. You don't have to do that. Think of what role models you want, your aunt, your grandma, your cousin, not Miley Cyrus. And maybe you need to throw away your Hannah Montana karaoke machine if it's going to remind you of that and scare you to go through puberty. So the program meets today's needs. It's responsive to the U.S. document, the Catechetical Guidelines in Chaste Living, the Vatican's Pontifical Council for the Family's Truth and Meaning of Human Sexuality, down to the age-appropriate end of every single topic that's in there. And there's nothing on the market to fill this void of parent-child bonding in these conversations. And Catholics are in dire need of this, as you know. I was talking to Isabella beforehand, and she's one of the facilitators that the JP2 Institute has trained. And she was telling me some of the stories of how the parents come out at the end. And my husband and I presented it at schools around here when it first came out. The parent-child bond is unbelievable. They come out, they've seen 6 different video clips together. They've conversed on the questions that are in the workbook together. And they come out in a conversation or a closeness that they never had before. Even parents will say something like, I've never had such a significant discussion with my child in his whole life, and he's 11 years old. We've never talked about such things of substance. I was able to share my faith. And then a lot of parents say, I learned a lot too. And so it helps grow the parent-child relationship because the process unfolds over the 2-hour seminar. Then they have 6 more chapters in their book to take home and do at home. So it's 6 acts at their evening seminar in about 2 hours, and then they have 6 chapters in their book to take home. So the parent-only program has 6 video clips and the workbook, and then there are 4 parent-child seminars, and each has 6 sections. The last one is a blessing, a beautiful blessing where the parent and child bless each other and pray for their purity and pray for their parenting. But the other the other 5 acts are what John, I don't know how he did that, took all my stacks of notes and put them in 5 beautiful stories. And level 1 for the grades like 4, 5, and 6 teaches the science of puberty for their single gender, including the physical, emotional, social, and spiritual changes and the virtues they need to develop during those years of growing up. and that's suitable for grades 4, 5, and 6. And that has 5 videos, and then the blessing ceremony with the scriptures of Jesus in the temple, going back, obeying his parents. We're going to show you a sample of Act 2. And then the level 2 is after they've understood how they're going to change. We don't hit the kids with all the information at once. They understand how they're going to change. This is good. This is beautiful. This is how God wanted their body to change. And this is what virtues I need to grow in while these changes are taking place, one being chastity, of course, and modesty and honesty. And so then level 2, which is appropriate for maybe 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, we review the puberty information and then teach them about the marriage act, which is how we describe it, the marriage act, conception, fetal development, pro-life, how to sponsor a spiritual adoption of a baby, and of course about chastity and the morality that goes with it, and about God and his plan and the theology of the body. That's my favorite one, John, is the Theology of the Body video, Act 3. Oh, it's cinematography, it's gorgeous. So we have 5 separate programs plus a facilitator guide. And it is absolutely changing lives of the people that come to it. We just have to reach more people. And thanks be to the JP2 Renewal Center, they're willing to go out and promote it all over the country and the world and help families. Maybe we can have facilitators trained in every parish or at least in every diocese, so they can do this easily, and we can enrich the whole parish. Now we're going to show, just of the 5 video clips, we're going to show Level 2 Boys Act 2,